Nope, they can't hear us. They can
Dang.
they can hear us now. What's going on, Coach Paul? How are you doing today?
Okay. Oh, another exciting, violently unchanged day.
Yes,
How
sir.
about yourself?
Doing okay, doing okay. Violently unchanged, violent to my account. Took some losses, but we are good. Still survived to trade another day. Uh, but yeah, violent day. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap, getting confirmation that our audio and video is good. Good afternoon to Toby Kelly, Justin's Take, Andrew, Pete. Welcome everyone. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay, that is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but our goal as traders is to identify opportunities, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay, I've been a top step performance coach for a little over a year, been trading for the past 12 years. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Coach Paul. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. Been trading full time for the last 25 years. I've got a lot of experience in trading many different markets. And also, as Coach Jay, I'm also a basketball coach.
We make a lot of parallels between basketball and trading, just sports and trading at all. So if you start getting lost and you're not a basketball fan, just we're probably talking about basketball. But thank you for being here, Coach Paul. Always good to have you here, and thank you all for joining us. The way we start every segment is by looking at the top percentage movers on the day. There's about 35 markets that we can trade with Top Step accounts. It doesn't always have to be the equities. So let's look at the biggest percentage movers. To the downside, we have wheat futures down 1.83%, soybean meal down 2.20%, and copper down 2.23% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we have crude oil. Crude up 5.35%, heating oil up 5.49%, and gasoline up 5.68%. RBOB futures for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. They turned up the energy, coach. Uh,
Uh,
I know you were talking before we got on a little bit about what might have caused that move to the upside in crude oil. I know you did take a trade, and we'll talk about that when we get into the charts. But speak about that a little bit, Coach. What headlines came out that affected the crude markets?
um, well, once again, tensions in the Middle East. Um, there was a headline that Biden was talking with Israel, trying about Israel's plan to attack oil facilities in Iran. Um, I guess he's trying to talk him down. I wasn't at the meeting, but
Right.
I did see the reaction in the market, and it was violent and sudden. I wouldn't say sudden because who wants to be short the crude oil
Yeah.
when in this situation? But once again, this whole week's theme is headline headline events. Um, and it happens fast as we've seen all this week, and we'll go through the crew, but that is the headline and that is the worry. um, so you know the play of the day, so to speak, was
Oh yeah.
definitely the energies. and
Absolutely.
um, and I think all eyes on in the equity world is on the energies.
For
um,
sure.
of note too, related to that, was bonds and the treasuries got hit. Interest rates rising a bit. Um, so once again, I think that is energy related. Um, Energy is the leading cause of inflation. That's why they don't put it in some of the indices. Um, that's another discussion. But the markets are on a hair trigger, so to speak. If I mean, if you want to be short crude, go ahead,
Not for a
but
long time.
understand, you know, you're tugging on Superman's cape. So that was the story of the day, and we'll go through that chart. But
Yep.
I think everything else is like second to the news coming out
I would
from
agree.
Middle East.
We did have some planned headlines out today. We had U.S. initial jobless claims coming in a little bit higher than expected. Forecast 221,000 came in at 225,000. We know we had services PMI factory orders as well. Um, Coming in a little bit better than expected, but not beating expectations by much. But again, these headlines, not seeing much of a market reaction to them. I think, like Coach Paul is saying, everyone's kind of on pins and needles about what's going on in the Middle East and not really taking trades from there. We also know that we have non-farm payrolls out tomorrow, which might be the biggest news for the week, if not the month. So maybe the market's waiting, equity market's waiting for that as well. We have non-farm tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Let's get into the charts. Coach, let's start with crude oil. Let's start with crude. It was the,
Okay.
the trade of the day. We'll go into the equities after that, but let's start with crude. I am going to go to crude oil on a 30-minute chart. I'm going to pull up your moving averages, Coach, and you traded this today, so I'm going to hand this one off to you and let you take it. But what are we seeing in crude?
Well, first of all, let's look at. Can we start with the daily and get an idea of
Yep.
just what's going on? Because we've been stuck in this range for the better part of a month. We've had that break, we're- and this rally was triggered Monday on the Israeli attack against Iran. As you can see, the short covering, we were above the 20-day moving average on Tuesday. Yesterday, we got above the 50, the purple. And today, we went to the 200. Um, Being above the 20, funds like to cover shorts if they're short. Um, so let's go to the half an hour and see what happened. Well, let's start from last night. There's the news right there. So we can, coach, that there's the news, the big candle to the left that happened on Tuesday or Monday.
Right.
I think that's Monday.
Yep, Monday.
Let's frame that out. Whether it was a 3 minute candle, a half hour, that's the news event. And we have held that candle all week. So we're above the 200. I don't want to be short. So I looked at that on my swing trades. I need to be long. Um, so coming into today, by the way, I pare down because the volatility is so. Usually, it's in my portfolio. It's one futures. I did a I did a mini, and I put in a bigger stop.
Okay.
So why I bring that is in volatile conditions. If you're trading at the same size you were and ignoring the volatility, it's you can get lucky, but the swings are going to create a lot of anxiety. Um, and that's what's happening in crude. I just want to be long it. I have a stop far away so I don't have to be emotional about it. But this morning we saw last night there we have the opening half an hour. That's the yellow lines. And we traded sideways, never left. The VWAP never left. And then once again, who sets the tone?
Our
London.
friends in London.
So this morning I added to my position as a day trade when I woke up this morning around 6 o'clock Central. And where did we go? We went right back into the opening range and couldn't settle under VWAP. I like that as a low risk trade. So once we went back in against VWAP. I bought another. This one I had a tighter stop to new lows, and I think it was less than $300. I mean, it was pretty cheap.
Nice.
Um, but there we go. Once again, have we seen this before?
A couple of times, just a few.
um, and then the news came out. And then just pure panic buying.
Yep.
So we're technicians, but let's consider if you're an end user for oil. We talked about this a little on Tuesday. I just want to reiterate. You have big risk. And I've worked a lot with hedging. If you don't hedge your risk, if you're using oil, and well, let's think about your car.
Right.
if um, if your budget for gasoline is going to go up 5-6% this week, whether you like it or not, maybe 10%. If you're running a business and you're relying on energy costs, you have a lot of risk, and you have headline risk, war risk. Um, any talk about disruption of Iranian oil, or any talk of the Straits of Hormuz, these are all like coming to the forefront. You're not waiting for a place to buy it so you can hedge. You have to get it on. Um, or you can lose a quarter's worth of profit just not being hedged. I've had as I've had worked with people who use that and hedging. Um, so there it was. As soon as we came into London, we had the buying. They couldn't bring it lower, um, and there it goes. Still looks very, very bullish.
Very bullish.
Um, if we just look right from there, and we see the 200-day moving averages is right above it. I think it hit it
Hmm.
today on the daily. You could put another $4, $5. It was up $4 at one time.
Yeah.
So um, once again, once it's above that 200 bar moving average, I'm not looking for shorts. The only time I want to sell it is to take profit. This to me is a longer term, looks like a longer, it has the potential, because this isn't trading advice. We're just going through a process and reviewing markets. This structure here shows me urgency.
Yeah. I think we can almost start talking about the number that shall not be named again
Don't
soon.
name it.
I'm not gonna name it, but I mean, yeah, there looks like there's some room up in this market for sure. Yesterday we were talking about the 7250 area where there was a ton of buying that happened. We saw the pull off from it, but some of the market participants are not day traders, right? Where we saw a lot of buying at 7250, looks like someone was building a position there, and then we see the push above it. Uh, yeah, there's a lot more room up in this market, and of course, with all of the headline risk, wider ranges in crude oil for sure. Today, 5% move. Uh, that could become the norm in these current conditions. And of course, anything can and will change. But right now, a lot of opportunity in crude oil.
Yeah. Uh, so if you're going to trade it, trade. But that's another one, micros. So I mean, what was today's range? It was full range. It was almost $4, I think.
Yep. Yeah, just about
Um,
$4.
so that's 4,000. If you just started with a $50,000 combine, that's twice your loss limit if you're wrong. I mean, I measure that at 4,000. If you sold the low and bought the high, or bought the low and sold the high, which are about this, very hard to do, by the way.
Mhm.
But it just gives you an idea of the volatility. Can
Right.
you afford to trade that when you have $2,000 to lose? I have my emphatic no, but you can afford fractions of that. Fractions are minis and micros, giving you bang for your buck.
Let's go to we're gonna do this backwards today. Let's go to gold from here.
Okay.
And we got gold on a 30-minute. Gold pretty choppy
Stagnant. Yeah.
price action. We made the high last week up around 2708 in gold. And since then, we've kind of pulled off. We've talked about this pattern a lot before where gold makes a high, pulls off of it, consolidates for a couple days, and then continues the rally. If we're looking at gold on a 30-minute chart here, we are kind of just wrapped around this 200 moving average. And the 20 and the 50 wrapped around each other as well. So any extensions on either side right now are being faded, right? We had this push lower on the news this morning. I think this was actually when those services PMI numbers were coming out. Knee jerk reaction to it. But if we look at it, not a lot of follow through and the market
Yeah.
just popping up and going the other way. Go ahead, coach.
Oh no, it's directionless market. Kind of looked like the NASDAQ and the S&P.
Right. Here is the 30-minute opening range from last night. If we anchor a VWAP to that, gave you a decent opportunity in the overnight to sell it. This is right around 10:30 Eastern time. We see volume leave the range pretty early, and start to act as a resistance into London. London sells it off. Uh, London markets have been getting pretty active, where this is a really nice trade here. But then we come into the New York session. We'll go down to a shorter time frame. Here is the reaction to the jobless claims number that came out. Pretty muted reaction. And then we have the
Oh, there it is.
these uh, manufacturing numbers that came out, and that was the bigger reaction in gold. A lot of selling here. That selling got absorbed. Someone asked, "Did I use? Do I use Quantower? I do. Just heavy negative delta in this candle. You can see it from the volume reaction. But once we printed that candle, and the same thing you can do with pretty much every news candle is identify where the high and the low is. I'm gonna anchor a VWAP to that, and from there, uh, we never traded back below. Once we got it back above 50% of that candle, volume starts to leave it. Gave us a really nice opportunity. It made you wait. It wasn't the quickest move. This is about 2 hours of chop in this range before we eventually did break. Um,
Is that a volume event?
this one right here, the one we just mapped out, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yep. Map out that volume. We got to close above it. Once we got to close above it, and this one wasn't clean, right? We got to close above that range, but volume didn't go. Uh, so it made you wait. It made you wait a little while before we really got any direction. But once we started to get more closes above, volume leaving that range as well, then we see price start to go, and just really nice move, and then consolidation again. I think gold is again not a market that I want to short. Market that I'm looking for places to buy for a trade potentially back up to that 2700 and then new all-time highs. But of course, have to pay attention to what the markets say and what volume says, and that can change at any moment. Anything you got on gold, coach?
Yeah, I like that volume spike. Is that's a classic J
Yeah.
trade. Um, and let's review that again. There was the news event. There was a volume event. What does that mean? The largest volume on that break. So that people, I consider that a stop run. Um,
Right.
I can't tell you who it is, but I consider that because that was sharp and with volume.
Mhm.
Then
No follow
the
through.
next candle, no follow through. We had buying was less volume than the selling, and then we get above the selling candle, the risk is the new lows because
Mhm.
this is a high probability trade. Then adding that VWAP gives you that much more confidence in the trade.
Yep.
Um, so when we've been talking about, like Coach just said, I'm not looking to get short gold. Um, Playing the side of gold is a trend, and a pretty prominent trend.
Mhm.
So that, looking to develop patience, whatever your trading plan is, how many times are you you lose patience and look for some other reason? As uh, Hogue likes to say, you look close enough, you can find a trade.
Right.
And I speak for myself. I love this trade for day trades. Anytime I would see that anywhere, and I just don't develop the complete discipline just to look for it and ignore everything else.
Yeah.
So part of a big part of trading is the discipline of waiting for your your opportunity.
Wait for your
Um,
pitch.
you wait for your pitch. There we go. We'll leave basketball. Wait for your pitch.
Right.
Yeah,
I gotta remind myself of that all the time. Uh, Because it's
and
there.
understand you could whiff. You could
Absolutely.
pop it up. You know, but you're waiting for your pitch. You have a higher probability of a positive result. So
We got a question here from Bradley. Do you recommend bracket orders during volatile price action, or do you prefer to create stop loss manually once you enter into a trade? Thoughts on entering stop prior to trade? Thanks.
I think it's a great idea to bracket
Yeah, I
because
my brackets are set when I set the trade. You can always adjust them afterwards. Go ahead, coach.
there it is. Also, when it's really busy and you're playing around, I missed the sell. I mean, on these pops, like I'm trying to enter an order. I've done, and especially on day trading, you could go real quick. I'm trying to enter an order to sell it for a profit. It moved that quick,
Mhm.
and then you're in the scramble mode because now it hit your level, and now what do you do? But I highly to another real positive thing is we talk about the characteristics of successful traders. All right. One of them is accept the risk before you make the trade.
Right.
And this automates that process. As the coach just said, he brackets every trade he puts on.
Yeah. To the downside, I don't normally trade with profit target brackets, but to the downside, yes, there's gonna be one there.
So it's a great idea. Um, Sometimes when we don't, we think, well, I might cut short the trade. Well, that's a good that's a good problem to have.
Right.
If that's you can always trade again.
Always can get back in.
Um,
Yeah,
in but I highly recommend in the same direction. But yeah, bracketing is a very, very good idea. It brings in discipline and it's less actions you have to make.
for sure. Uh, and you are not relying on yourself to make a decision under pressure when it happens,
Yeah,
right? I think we talked about
agree.
it all the time. What happens if some random news comes out and the market drops 50 points before you can put on a stop? Now, you don't know when that's going to happen. Let's say you still have enough balance in your account to facilitate that drop. What do you do in that instance? Right? Now you're looking at a P&L that says you're just for hypotheticals, you're down 10,000 when that bracketed stop should have been somewhere around 1,500. What decision do you make when you're down 10,000? Do you close it? Do you hold on for dear life? Are you adding? Uh, that's a very tough decision to make when you see that P&L pop up on the screen. Uh, it's happened to me before, and I talk about
I don't
freezing.
ever want to be there again.
No, talk about freezing up. It's
Let's
like,
talk about this,
oh,
coach. What let's talk about what was your first reaction?
what the so I mean that hasn't happened for years. Where at this point I just keep brackets on and I just accept the loss, and I will just take multiple losses. Uh, Tears, th- that's the yeah,
Couple
couple tears
a
shed,
couple
like
words that
a
you cannot
couple,
mention?
right, yeah, couple tears, couple explicitive words, sweating, like what that, yeah, it's not a great feeling.
Yeah,
It's not, you can't explain it, right? You kind of black out. Um,
yeah. And it's by the way, this is a great discussion. You trade long enough, you got a high probability of being in a situation like that.
yep.
You might have got in an error. You might have just done something stupid and said, "This time for sure, hold my beer and buy 10." And then, because I've been there on errors, um, and there's a you're frozen. The coach just said it. You're frozen
Hmm.
because no one in their right mind wants to be in this situation. Um, so my immediate reaction sometimes is, well, if I hold it, I can. If it comes down halfway, I can pare this down.
Yeah.
Bad
It's
decision
hope. That's hope.
because it the chances are that it's only going to get worse. Because if you have a big move,
Hmm.
it's for a reason. So, first of all, as coach said, have a bracket, but have a stop in at before you enter the order.
Yep.
Number one, and once you've done it, I think that's the one where you don't ever want to be there again.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes something out of you. It's like
Yeah. Yep.
when you're a boxer, right, coach? Right, coach.
You get
It's like
knocked.
taking you
Yeah.
get knocked out, man.
It's like somebody
You
please throw in the towel.
yeah, you're
Lito
laying on
says,
the ground going, "What the heck just happened?"
"What just hit me? What just hit me?" Um, or like that scene in Rush Hour where Chris Tucker's like, "Which one of y'all kicked me?" He didn't know where it came from, but he knew he got hit. D says you can curl up in the corner. That helps. It helps for a little bit. It
Yeah.
definitely this definitely does. But yes, Bradley, put some brackets on. You can always move them around, but have it there. Just save yourself the agony. Um, let's move on to anything else you got in gold, coach, before we move to the equities.
Um, no, I still like it, and I actually like. I think it's a good thing to trade in the evening too,
Oh yeah.
because it's a 24-hour. An evening is a relative term, um, so because gold is traded 24/7 around the world.
All right, let's move on to the NASDAQ. Oh, if I can type the symbol in properly. There we go. Here's the NASDAQ. We'll zoom out. We'll go to a 30-minute chart, and I'm going to take off some of the drawings that I have on here so we can actually see the price action, or if you want to call it that, price action. We've been pretty choppy here. We had that sell off on, that was Tuesday, right? Sell off on Tuesday. We looked at this 50% area yesterday as a resistance. Looked at the 50% area today as a resistance as well. When we talked about this yesterday, we were looking
Yeah.
for where we closed. We closed pretty close to that 50% area. So I was looking for, before we got today's price action, the potential for this candle to fill. Uh, we didn't, right? Didn't really find any directional volume today. And if we look at the moving averages, coach, the 20 and the 50 tell us exactly that, right? Kind of braided around each other, still under that 200 moving average. Would you look at
What was
that?
the high today?
Whatever that white line is there, I'm not exactly sure, but we've seen that before. That white line is the 200 moving average, simple moving average on the 30-minute chart. Shout out to Coach Paul for using those. and teaching me how to use those. Coach Paul and I were talking, and just while this session was going on, and he took that opening range breakout trade to the upside and said, "We're coming up to that 200 moving average." Uh, Good place to look to potentially take profits if you were long or getting into a short, because that, I mean, I don't know what else to say there.
It didn't give you much time to get it. Yeah, there, but it was either it didn't give you much time because that
Nope.
well, look, it's a wick.
Hmm.
So what can we gather from that? Well, this market is heavy to the top side. There are sellers lurking in the weeds on rallies.
Hmm.
Why? Look, there's the candle. We're in that range, the war candle.
Yep.
It's also 50%. There's a lot of confluences there. I like to, if you're long, hey, let's let's get out here. Let's see if it can close above it. But the other thing to look at is the angle of that moving average.
Oh yeah.
It's not. It's steep. We talked about GAN and trend lines. It's a 45-degree angle.
Hmm.
It's 1-to-1 in time versus price, and it's not spending time there. And boy, did it reject um, in a hurry,
Yep.
um, leading to unchanged, violently unchanged day. And I know it's like there's just, but yeah, that was that was a rare. No, I don't want to say rare, but that's one I love that trade because the next trade we go into is the 3-minute opening range trade, and you see why I was like it happened so fast.
Yeah, it did. This was one where it just said, "Hey, take it."
Yeah,
Let's look at a 3-minute chart. I'm going to take these moving averages off of here. And here is the 3-minute opening range. We kind of glossed over the London session, the overnight session. It was a really nice sell off. I'm pretty sure we had the exact uh, same, 30-minute opening range. VWAP left the range and was a nice short overnight. But coming into the New York session, we have that 3-minute opening range and volume left as quick as it could from that range. Pretty much just a 30-minute move in one direction, right up to that 200 moving average, coach. Uh, yeah,
and
just
look at that. That was you know what's funny? I wanted to sell it. I sold it, and that when we broke out, I took my first good loss.
nice.
Um, then so and using this too, you don't have to buy it, but I will tell you this: if you get a move like that and off the opening, what are you fading if you're selling it?
You got
You're
20. Yeah, you're fading the tidal waves.
Yeah, just and I was bearish. I was short. I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm, you know, took my loss. It was a reasonable loss, but then I sold it against that 200, not at the price, but a bit lower, about 20 ticks lower. Came right
Yeah.
back, scratched the day.
Like you said, it didn't give you much time where we had these wicks here. And you do want to give it some space, especially if you were long from that opening range. You do want to give it some space to, hey, does it claim over it? But on that rejection, I know you're looking at that, coach, and you say, if this gives me any reason to get out, I'm going to take it uh, because of how strong of a level that 200 moving average is on the 30-minute chart. Uh, if we anchor, we talked about this as well, coach. We talked about this as on the past couple of segments and at the buzzer, anchoring a VWAP to where
The high of the
there's a
day.
there's a pivot, the high or the low of the day. I'll remove the drawing so we can actually see that one clearly now. But got a little double top action there. Uh, do we know that this is the high once it's the high? Maybe, maybe not. Right? Maybe you're looking at that 200 moving average, and you're going off of the pattern that you've seen repeat time and time again. But you don't necessarily need to sell this high, right? This when we anchor this VWAP to that high, we can see a couple of times it gave us an opportunity to the sell side, where since it made this high, it's telling us that sellers are in control now. And when do buyers take control? If they get, significant closes above this VWAP. So
Yeah.
opportunity to short it here for, wow, that was 120 points in 6 minutes.
Was it?
Uh,
Okay, that's, by the way, that is the definition of volatility.
absolutely.
It's, I mean, the 120. So we talk about it. What's wrong with taking 40, right?
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Um, on a mini, that's $800 on a 40, not a 40 ouncer, but a
Right.
46. Um, but wow, there you go. There's the line, and
Yep.
you could do the same thing on the way up.
Yeah,
The idea
absolutely.
is know when to stop, because our jobs are not to make markets. Our job is to take markets. We've seen it before. If you can't define what you're looking for, then you're just going to be taken by the market at random.
Right.
Um, so even on the way up, if we just did that. Every time it touches it, if you buy one, and you could trade the average true range on the 3 minute as a profit target. Okay, um, but you know it's a great tool. Anchoring VWAP. We've said it 1,000 times. I'll probably say it 1,000 times by the end of the week. But it helps you define the what the market's doing versus just the price.
Hmm.
It's a volume. So
And then speaking of volume, this candle right here was reaction to I believe, Biden speaking. And if we look at the volume, that's the highest volume candle of the entire day. It happened at 10:12 Eastern time. So we know that wasn't a scheduled response, right? That's just reaction to unexpected headline. And
boy, yeah, against that too. I like to looking at that candle,
mhm,
and if it's that volume, what is that volume doing? It's selling.
yep,
All right, it's not buying.
yep,
So risk the highs of the day, and frame that out. There's many different ways, but we're reading flows.
hmm,
Um, that flow off the highs, excuse me, that means something.
for sure. Yeah, it was a reaction to something. So even if you didn't catch that high and then you're looking for a place to get in, and we talked about this as well, right? Where we get to see the market like this after the fact, but where do we want to try to execute trades? Where if you see this selling happen here, uh, trying to get as close to volume with your entries, especially with this volatility, is where you want to be, right? Let's say I got short here, which in the grand scheme of the day is not technically shorting in the hole, but for this momentum, you're selling the low of this momentum. So, you have to have a, this is 70 points to the opposite side right now. This is the case we were talking about yesterday, potentially trading micros to be able to deal with some of this volatility. But it looks like a small move, but these are 70-point swings, 80-point swings. In the NASDAQ, that's tough to deal with trading minis. Uh, if you got short in the hole here. This is almost $1,000 move. With micros, it's $100, and maybe you can then set your risk above the highs of that candle because we know that's where the selling came in, right? They showed us that at 50% of the candle, their sellers were holding price down, but you could get short in the hole here, get chopped up before the market eventually did go in your favor. But for me personally, looking for trades around this 50% area uh, give me better risk to reward, right? Where I can risk these highs and go from there. Uh,
Jeez,
my P&L doesn't
that
say that, but That's what I should be looking at.
Uh, so actually, it came right back. My pivot in the in the NASDAQ was 19,977, right in the middle
Ni-
of the range, and it went close,
19977.
right around where we settled. We
Yep.
settled at 19,990, but we traded around it and ended up back at it. So there were
Yep.
still what all today's action, and we came back to the middle. Um, to me, and by the way, the moving averages are getting compressed, which means they're getting close together, which is a high probability of a breakout on to either side.
Yep. Absolutely. We'll see what tomorrow brings. We got a question from Moises. I believe this is when we were talking about the equities. Does the hourly look like a cup and handle? And Moises, correct me if you were talking about a different market. Uh, Coach, I would fail any of those chart pattern tests. So is this a cup and handle
Is
that we're seeing here?
Um, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I would want this is kind of a jagged move. It's not smooth like a good cup and handle would be a rounded
Round bottom.
bottom there.
Right.
Um, and you can see that. Wow, just looking at that, that's a good because I look at the hourly too, and that's that's jagged. Which shows that there's a lot of the market isn't slowing down. It's getting ripped. And, if you
Yeah.
understand the difference, in other words, it went to a low and it takes some time and there's no action and it's gentle. This
Yeah.
isn't gentle, but is the NASDAQ ever gentle?
No. Yeah. Not
No.
normally.
It's be funny. Let's look at the S&P against versus NI hourly.
This looks like a cup that I made in like elementary school as a Mother's Day gift when they
Yeah.
they try to make everyone an artist. My cup looked like this. It's just like I'm not drinking out of that. What the hell is
Oh, it's so lovely.
that? Right, yeah. So what time frame did you want to go to?
No, let's go to the S&P,
S&Ps. Okay. Yeah, and I did
which
want to
is a
talk a
little.
little bit about Deanna and I were on for Pass with the Pros with Keegan. I want to talk a little bit about the analysis that we did in the S&Ps, but we'll go to that in a second. Here we go
Yeah,
with the S&Ps,
that's
coach, on the hourly.
it actually looks a little different too. It's still jagged. Um, so yeah, it's got like it's a Coach J's Mother's Day gift cup. Um, but I would say this: if you're playing that, it has to close above that war candle. I would not
All the way up
do
here.
anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so
We got a 30-minute chart here under the 200 moving average. Didn't get exactly to it like we did in the NASDAQ, but we see where the resistance was yesterday, right around these 5770s. Kind of wicked up there and rejected. I do believe that let's use the candle, somewhere close to that 50% as well. Very similar to the NASDAQ. I'm going to go down to a 3-minute chart, and we don't have to go over the same analysis. It's pretty much the same exact trade, but I do want to go over the trade we were looking for Keegan during that segment. And that was 2 p.m. Eastern time. And what we were looking at was a really consolidated market. But why I think we all liked the trade was kind of basing out and establishing this range under the daily VWAP, uh, and maybe risking above that or looking for an entry on a buyer's failure at this VWAP. Uh, During that segment, we talked about not getting the follow through for volume that we would expect. uh, to get through here. And I want to go to a 5 minute chart because Keegan was trading on a 5 minute chart, and I, spoke a little bit about what volume expectations we could have for breaking out of this zone. And if you use volume by candle, uh, you may understand this read. But if we look at all of the fluid price action that we had, although it was overlapping, price was moving. The market was moving through these prices. The volume average at that time was around 15,000, and we're seeing all of these candles being above average volume. When the volume is below the average, price starts to slow down. We get, more indecisive candles, and then of course here on this low volume session here, we can see the price action matching up to it. When we see that volume start to increase, we see price start to speed up as well. And then this is where Keegan is taking this short with volume below that average once again. So, we called the high of the range 57.45, the low of the range 57.30. And I'll just mark out that range here. And in order for us to break out of that range, we were looking for at least 15,000 contracts traded in a 5 minute candle. Now I'll put 15,000 marked out here. And why 15,000? Because if we go back earlier in the day, we see these fluid candles somewhere 15,000 or above. And, I was telling Keegan, hey, if you get into this short, you need to see about 15,000 contracts worth of volume. We did check down towards 57.30, but I think this is where you can use that volume confirmation for your trades, right? On price alone, it looked like we were getting ready to break out of that range down to 57.30. And I think that's where you can get caught up in this reversal where you didn't have convinced bot selling to get us through those prices. And then we get a pop right back up, and we get 15,000
Losing
contracts
volume.
of volume. Yeah, no volume. Then we finally get the volume, breaks us out of the range, but that's on the close of the day. So um, just wanted to go through what I was looking at there. There was really no volume to continue that move, uh, which tells us range bound market. Anything else on the S&Ps that you want to talk about, Coach?
No, uh, I'm no, I don't have anything
Yep.
to add. It's what's to say that we haven't said.
Didn't really move too much. We did have Coach Hoop asking about the bonds a little bit, but Coach, I want to ask you first. Do you have anything on your scouting report that you're looking at right now, currently, or do we want to just go straight to the bonds?
Let's just go straight to the bonds. I don't. Actually, could be the 10-year or the bonds on the sell side, but let's bring it up.
All right, let's go to the 10 year. Here's the 10 year on a 30-minute chart.
All right.
That looks really nice.
Under that. Yeah, we went under that 200 um, yesterday. I was long, and I took my loss, and I didn't buy it again. That th- it's confounding. We've had the rate cut, right?
Hmm.
We have almost certainty to be another rate cut, and yet rates are going up.
Hmm.
Um, for those of you who knew, the treasuries are inverted. What I mean is, when rates go up, the chart goes down. So these are rising rates,
Yep.
um, and rapidly, because I don't think the market itself was expecting this. As you can see, this isn't a sharp move. It's consistent selling,
Right.
which is surprising. I don't think the market's prepared for that. And if we go quickly to a daily, let's look at the longer term trend. We had the rate cut news, and we've done nothing but to go sideways to lower. But this two things we're talking about: energy prices add to inflation, bearish for interest rates, bearish for notes, bonds, 5 year. Um, Also, China. Well, we haven't talked about that, but they had their massive intervention
Right.
earlier in the week, and they're propping most likely that money is propping up their internal economy. That means less demand for U.S. debt, which is at record. Isn't it always at record? But I don't. Here's the result. We're leaking. Now it's still above the 200, and it's had a great rally. But I think tomorrow, I don't think. I think this market is heavy, and with ADP out tomorrow, I think you see some larger players lightening up because this ADP number, I think, is going to hold a lot of weight. But that too, inflationary scenarios. You I don't want to be hyperbolic, but if there's missiles and someone asked here about the Straits of Hormuz,
Hmm.
do you think we will be at a choke at the Straits of Hormuz where 25% of the oil consumption passes through? Yeah. I mean, these are right up there right now. These are not just scenarios, they're a trigger point away.
Yep.
And that's nervousness. And you could see crude spike 10 $10, $15. I don't It's pure. And so if that happens, it's not positive for interest rates. And I think that I think you see some longs getting out of some of their position because this move in the treasuries and the bonds is picking up steam when in a scenario that we just spoke about, you would expect the Fed to ease and rates to ease, and that's not happening.
Yep.
So that could be the October surprise, but it's holding the 50-day moving average. If that 20 and the 50 cross, we get down to that 200 in next week. So it seems to be tipping. It is like a reverse cup and handle there. See how more gentle versus sharp
Yeah.
on the top. Um, so yeah, that could be a big surprise. You could have the market leaning the wrong way.
I
Oh,
just
did you just
inverted. I just inverted the chart so we could see the cup. But yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. What about UB? UB probably looks very similar, if not more
even
of
worse?
of an expedited move. Right. Got a question from Yasmin here. How do you use the quotes of other futures in your trading? If I'm trading a specific market, I'm probably not looking at this quote board. But if the market that I'm looking at isn't presenting an opportunity, I might just scan this quote board real quick to see if there's another market that's moving, uh, and presenting a better opportunity. Right. If I'm looking at the Nasdaq and it's chopping around in a 20-point range, uh, and I am still looking to take a trade, and I look over at this and I see heating oil is up, 5%, I might look at a heating oil chart and say, hey, this is presenting maybe a better trade to me than the market that I'm looking at. Any other
Yeah,
questions that we have in the chat? We got about 5 minutes left. Go ahead, coach.
that heating oil. I looked at it. I actually looked at it. I was going to add to that, but I don't look at the ranges in there. They're um,
There's opportunity there.
yeah. Do they have? I don't think they have minis and micros. They
No.
might have minis, but I mean, it's so volatile. What is the? I had it.
The tick
The
value?
yeah, it's 4.20, I believe. But
Yep.
on the hourly chart, the average range is 142 points. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah. Not a
Um,
contract that I would trade in top step accounts, especially not at
um,
50K.
oh, yeah. That's about $1,600 moves in an hour. So, um, probably not something to trade, but once again, let's just say we brought up bring that up. And I just want to go over the technical aspects. There's the 200 again,
Mhm.
acting as a support.
Yep.
After we went through it, when tested, we got over the 20. Um, we bracket out an opening. It,
It applies anywhere. It applies anywhere. It applies to anything.
it applies to, we're just measuring. Basically, we're plumbers. We're measuring flow.
Yep.
To all you plumbers out there, you understand exactly what I mean. I have worked with plumbers before. It's not that we take for granted when we turn on the faucet. Just how incredible it is to have water on a tap or for a shower. It's all flow. If the flow's not right, you're not getting water. So I look at markets as flow machines. And that and we're looking there's a classic example. Um, so
And if
yeah.
you are in the flow, speaking of flow, coach, if you're in the flow right now with your trading and you're close to passing a combine and you want to do it on Topstep TV, fill out the form that I just put in the chat. That is for Pass with the Pros, our newest segment on Topstep TV. Segment I really enjoy and got to do it for the first time today with Deanna and Keegan. If you want to pass your combine on Topstep TV, fill out that form. Remember that Dolby is reading it, and Dolby is a stickler for the details. So fill it out as he asked there, so we can get you on Top Step TV. Hopefully, pass your combine with some of our on-air talent, and you could be the next on-air talent to do so. Make sure you fill that out and try to pass with the pros. Outside of that, we have our Trustpilot link. If you like what we are doing here, not just Coach Paul and I, because we know that you've already hit the like button already, right? You're not sitting there and didn't hit the like button, right?
uh,
Yeah, I'm talking to
I
you.
wouldn't think so.
I'm talking to you, the one who hasn't hit the like button already. Make sure you go ahead and do that. There are 590 of you watching here. If you like what you heard here, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you don't know already, don't hit it again. Um, Uh, but
Yeah,
Trustpilot,
hit it
Trustpilot.
twice again.
If you like what you've heard, or you like Topstep in general, the programming, all of the education that we're providing on Topstep TV, just the program in general, fill out a Trustpilot review. It helps us. It helps Topstep kind of know where we sit with our traders. Uh, I got nothing else, Coach. Any words before we leave?
um, Tomorrow's big number, 80 ADP or NFP,
NFP, NFP. Yep.
whatever alphabet soup. Just know that it's a big number. Don't get in front of it. Trade, let them do the work and make your decision from there. I highly recommend that. Um, because we talked before, we're not market makers, we're market takers. Take what the market gives to us and make better decisions.
There we
Other than
go.
that,
Uh, I There are other segments other than ours. We have Coach Hoop, Coach Ray, Coach Vince doing classes in Discord pretty much every day. Coach Hoop, today's Thursday, so Coach Hoop's not going today, but we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. And then, of course, Slow Markets, which tonight will be hosted by yours truly. Dakota is gallivanting around San Diego somewhere. So I'm going to be taking over Slow Markets tonight in place of Dakota. And we have Deanna, who's not doing a London session tomorrow because it is Friday, but every Monday through Thursday at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Ton of education for you at TopStep with the interest of making you a better trader. And if you can't watch it live, make sure you catch the replays because it's a ton of great stuff there. Uh, Dakota gallivanting. Um,
I didn't. Can you can you define gallivanting?
Uh, I'll ask Dakota to send videos of what he's doing in San Diego. But slow markets tonight at 7:30 Central Time. I will be on there in place of Dakota, so he can go enjoy himself. Um, Trade well, trade smart. I'll talk to you all in a couple hours. Coach, thanks again as always,
Thank you.
and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.